here with Jeannie Parentoni from SSP, Tammy Stechko from SSP. We've got our guest, Dr. Moore from Hunterdon Central Regional High School, and we're talking today about reimagining your space. So Jeannie, Dr. Moore, I will pass the conversation on to you.
Great, thank you, Tammy. In fact, I guess my first question for Dr. Moore is, how were you ahead of the curve in terms of what obviously is a big challenge right now during the time of COVID, is rethinking how activities occur both online and in person, and what do you do where and when and things like that. But you were thinking along these lines even before the pandemic happened, and just want to get your thoughts about what led to this project.
So thank you, Jeannie and Tammy, and Jessica Cangelosi-Haight, our director of curriculum, here with us as well, and I were looking at our media center space as a place to really push the boundaries on what flexible instruction could look like, how we could use the space as a launching pad for all kinds of innovative instruction and activities on campus. So we designed it initially to be a place that we could reconfigure, that we could have different spaces devoted at different times to different kinds of activities. So I think we're still thinking right now about how this looks like in a post-COVID environment, context. But from the very beginning, when we looked at the size of our campus, the location of the media center, what it means as a place for all of the ideals of our strategic plan to come to life, it seemed like we were going to be asking it to do an awful lot, this space. So flexibility was the only way that we were going to be able to manage that. So a little bit about our campus: 72 acres. We have multiple facilities. So we have multiple buildings that in their own rights are kind of big enough to be schools by themselves. An 11-12 campus, a 9-10 campus, and then situated in between them is this communications building that includes music and tech ed and our IMC space, our integrated media center space. So we looking at it now, I think, flexibility, how do we overlay, COVID era instruction into this space is something that we're working out now, but thankful that we approached it with flexibility in mind as kind of a key guiding principle.
Yes, and in fact, one of the things that I remember early conversations that we had together were you're pointing out how this particular facility really was the heart of the campus, and it was intended, if nothing else, to be a place that was fully welcoming to all students, whether you were the lowly freshman first coming in, whether you were a special needs kid that had needed extra help in various things, whether you're a sophisticated senior that really wanted to kind of indulge in passions and explorations and career readiness as they're kind of taking a step out the door. And I think what I see as a trend in terms of what's happening elsewhere in the world is the idea of using kind of space, whether it's office space or whether it's even medical intervention spaces, as places of deep focus and activity. And I think that was part of your process, because you involved a lot of input from staff and getting feedback from classroom teachers to figure out what were you doing in one place of the campus, so what could you do differently here? If you want to comment on that thinking that you had.
Yeah, there's a larger, how this space embodies the strategic priorities that we have in the district through our strategic plan. That was how we embarked on this, that question. How do we ensure that this space, which is the physical center of campus, as well as in a lot of ways a spiritual center of campus, how do we make sure that this space embodies and is a place to explore our strategic planning ideals? And so our strategic plan sits atop for kind of foundation stones, and there's student wellness, there's powerful learning, which includes all sorts of things about personalization and individualization, pursuing your passions. There's strong partnerships with the community and between people, and then there's service. So these are the four foundational, the cornerstones of our strategic plan. And so when we looked at a space like this, we asked, what does the most innovative education look like in all four of those areas. How can we give that kind of education a space to push boundaries? And then how do we use the lessons we learn in that space to rethink other spaces on campus? So the IMC, our media center, is designed to be the place where we do the most innovative, risk-taking kind of instruction, and then move that instruction out to other spaces, and then repurpose the media center to be the next kind of instructional, so there's this not revolve, well, I guess it is, it's a revolving door of innovation. When we prove that something works, we find another place for it to roost out on campus so that more people can access it more of the time, and then the media center can be on to the next best thing. So that's where the flexibility came in from the beginning.
Yeah, and I just wanted to emphasize what, that's a real systems thinking process. And that's what has all the very successful big tech companies are doing exactly that. And I think, Tammy, this is a perfect time for you to share your screen, because I'd like to show some images. We have a kind of a split image showing a before and after shot. And this way we can kind of see a little tease of some spaces that are here in this first phase, as well as get commentary on it. And what we have in this first shot is on the left-hand side is the traditional classroom that was in this media center. And you can see well-built, constructed, heavy-duty, wood furniture versus a very different look and feel and mobility that's going to be the after effect. So Dr. Moore, if you want to talk about that kind of transformation.
Yeah, and so a little bit more, if you step back even a few more steps to see this space. This space was one of our classroom spaces throughout the out on the floor of the media center. And what you don't see in the picture is that it was barricaded in by tall stacks of books. So this space was very much secluded from the rest of the media center. You could see it certainly, but it was an enclosed space. And what we've done in this corner instead is provide a much more visible space. So we'll have glass enclosing this space. So it's a bit of a fishbowl. But that's kind of part of our thoughts about innovative education that's being done as a risk-taking kind of education in this space. Is we want people to see it, and much more flexible furniture. So this furniture is designed to be moved around, it's designed to be reconfigured, so taking what was a corner space in the IMC for traditional kind of instruction, even though cooperative clearly, but still traditional, and allowing it to be more flexible and visible so that it could be pushing boundaries. Jess, am I missing anything? And anything you want to add here?
Well, what's interesting about this space is we use it kind of for multiple purposes. We use it as a flexible classroom. We use it for staff workshops and staff meetings and after hours. I've seen our student of the lunch celebrations there. So there really was a need for it to truly be a flexible space. Those wooden tables get really heavy and hard to move. And this is much more conducive to making it work for whatever the purpose is in that space going on at the time.
And I'm curious how the perception's been from people with that fishbowl effect, because from the industry side, we know that the most amazing innovations and breakthroughs in companies, and I'm talking about this is like Bell Labs and the work at MIT during the war, they occurred in fishbowl spaces where people were looking and peering in, seeing learning or seeing communications or seeing development on display. And whether people have a coolness factor, in terms of, basically upping their game or upping what they're doing in that space, because there is that fishbowl effect.
Well, I think it also speaks to other spaces in the media center that are more private. And so we have other classroom spaces that we've redone, and they're more private. We have quiet study areas that in phase 2, which will be coming up this summer, will be more private for students as well. So this isn't for all kinds of activities at all times. And I think in the initial phase of our understanding how this media center plays into our larger sense of moving innovation across campus, there might be a little discomfort at first in teachers who want to use this space to do highly visible, innovative education are going to have to be comfortable with that. because there will be people walking by. There will be people looking at what they're doing and wondering what's going on in there. So this space brings some of that risk with it, but we also know that we have staff members who are definitely eager to use it and to showcase those sorts of things that they're doing, and so we're confident that we'll have people who are ready for that, and the number of those people will grow. We're certain as we continue to show that what's done in this space works.
Yes. Another space, we're talking now about the maker space that has also a very radical transformation. Here on the left side, you can see again that kind of traditional furniture of the old and the kind of built-in bookcases, and you had a bit of natural light coming in up on high that either worked or didn't work in terms of that space, in terms of the time of day. And what you have afterwards is a very airy, mobile, again, very different feel to what could be this makerspace bit. So if you want to talk about how activities might change within this space.
Well, and the same thing was holding true of we had a makerspace in one corner of our media center, and it was a project that had been put together years before on a small budget and a lot of hand-me-down furniture, and it was showing certainly by the number of students and staff who were using it that it had a lot of efficacy to be popular, and also to help teachers do some hands-on work with kids that was really novel and which couldn't necessarily take place in the regular traditional classroom. So what we've done basically is promote. The makerspace graduated from a corner project to now its own devoted space. We did lose in this movement. We lost a front corner that is, as you can see, a traditional kind of classroom like the other one that you saw. But we believe that it's certainly worth it to turn it over to this hands-on fabrication type space. I have to admit that as in the era of COVID, we have to continue to understand how a space like this can really operate when you're talking about shared equipment and shared supplies. But we're eager for this space to be a place where students, not just with a class that signs up and comes down to use the makerspace, gets to take advantage of this, but a space where individual students can come in and be pursuing their individual projects as well.
One of the nice things is it does have some roominess to it, so you can do some spacing out or have small pods of learning. And Jessica, I wanted to ask you in terms of one of the things, planning that flip between where these spaces would go in the library as a whole, we talked about being able to kind of close this room off a bit with the glass, and so that it was a little bit more soundproof, so you can get very messy in it and noisy, but it would not disturb other areas of the library.
Yes, and that's very important. So I don't know, without you saying that, I don't know if everybody saw there, the glass was there. So again, people can see what's going on. It excites everyone about innovation and makerspace, but it also protects the noise and kind of leaves it in that space. And another neat thing, which you can't see from this picture, but to the right of that room and kind of in front of it is another space that we had that we renovated. It was a very old, like kind of computer lab with big clunky furniture. We made it another flexible classroom. But we put a door from there to the maker space. So that offers a lot of options for teachers if they want to have more individualized projects going on in the maker space while still having some students in a classroom. And so that was something new. We hadn't had that before.
And we also talked about the idea that, that community outreach and community involvement. So potentially between that other classroom and this space, you really have access to a vestibule entry point. So you could even have community activities that are happening in that flow of the three spaces from the vestibule on into this space, which again is especially if you're bringing in industry partners to work with the students and things like that, it makes a lot of sense to have that adjacency between the two. And Tammy, if you want to go on to the next place, because this is the one that I thought was really interesting, because I remember early on, Dr. Moore, we talked about the fact that this building actually sits very close to a beautiful wooded area and a stream that goes through the campus. But because of the original design of the building, it had narrow, tiny windows in places, or, it just really didn't foster this idea of being able to look out to nature. for that refreshing, refocusing, because again, you want areas that are private and quieter and to have that contemplation aspect. And this is one area that can go in that direction.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. There's this feeling, you can see it on the left, that behind this building, there's a nature element on campus that was really beautiful, and it just wasn't brought into the space in a way that we thought was most appropriate. There's another space too, which I guess will be more relevant in phase 2. There's a beautiful sort of skylight type fixture in the middle, almost in the middle of the media center, that's kind of hidden away right now because underneath it is some administrative desks, but we'll be making that into a stage area for performances right in the middle of the space as well. So we want to bring those outside things in as much as possible, and here definitely was an opportunity to give view over something that was pretty beautiful on the other side of the window. And I got to admit, there's a little bit of I go back to some thoughts from John Dewey and others about the school facing things that are relevant to the kids as they're working on different projects. So here, this nature element being right outside the window as kids engage in their work, I think has a powerful impact on that work that they do. So this is breathtaking when you walk in and see this, having gone from the view on the left to the view on the right. It's something that people notice right away, and it's visible all the way across from the entrance. You walk in the entrance and you see this all the way on the other side, and it just transforms the space tremendously.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful draw of attention and really kind of gives a feel to that space. And I think that we were after that of creating different areas where students can feel differently in, and so that they can kind of find the activities or find comfort in certain areas of the media center as they joined in and kind of used it over time. Okay, and Tammy, our last picture, again, this is just a small little transformation, but kind of major at the same time, because you were talking about trying to engage that that open area in terms of the skylight, and this was one little corner where that skylight was being encroached upon, and on the before picture with the column, and we're trying to open that up and make it more seamless so you have a transition from a secondary door entrance and flow to what will be a help desk area, but it's tucked in. It's in a nice location for getting access to all the students. At the same time, it's not taking away from the other flow of spaces. So I think this is, and I like that you have the physical barriers for now in terms of separating it with the glass partitions as a way to kind of deal with the existing COVID situation.
Well, there was this thought too about, when you look at the space as it was before we began a renovation, the different things that got layered on top of the space over the years, the different sort of nibblings around the edges to make things fit. The media center didn't have kind of a language well, language might be the best word. It didn't have a language of its own, but now we had this opportunity to really build all of these things in a lot more deliberately. The IT help desk has been moved around a couple times over the years, so now it's part of the structure. This work also involved renovation of their workspaces behind that wall as part of the media center structure. So they got larger workspaces and such. So there's a lot that went into this, and of course, then the involvement of different people in the conversation was important on this as well. What will be part of phase 2 also, as you head right in that after picture toward those doors that are there, just off screen there, we have some offices and other spaces that have been used or not used for different things over the years. We're opening that up to provide some cafe style seating for kids and staff, so that that coffee house kind of atmosphere, students and staff who are comfortable working in that kind of atmosphere can have a place that's a bit more social potentially and a bit more lively to kind of get energy from as they do their work. Again, COVID, we don't know what that means for all these things, but certainly distancing and other precautions can be achieved more easily in these open spaces that you see than in those spaces that we've seen, like the ones on the left that were there before.
Mm-hmm. And Jessica, I think of how similar the situation is between kind of transformation of a physical space and transformation of curriculum. things that have to evolve over time. As Dr. Moore was pointing out, is what we were able to take advantage of by taking a good hard look of the physical space of the media center were spaces that were either overcrowded or underutilized, and how did we repurpose that? And I assume with your curriculum planning and all the things that you do on the education side, you're constantly doing that in terms of weeding out and taking away what's not working and evolving and moving towards things that you really want to shift the focus on.
Yeah, for sure. And we have been doing that, prior to the renovations, but one of the changes we have recently made, and it worked well with the timing of COVID, if anybody can say that about anything with COVID, but our media specialists, we're making them more of the instructional technology leaders in our school and for our staff. So they've been offering a lot of workshops on instructional technologies, and now they'll be offering workshops on bringing your curriculum into the IMC. And what does that mean? And what are some suggestions? So we're looking a lot at augmented reality and virtual reality right now. Of course, we're looking at things for makerspace. So all of that plays into curriculum across all content areas.
Perfect segue, because I was just literally reading the business magazine today, and it was talking about how New Jersey's manufacturing is shifting, and it was, headlines were AI, VR, IT, cybersecurity, all these things that you're going to be doing in terms of just integrating the teaching that you're doing in the high school. It's leading to the career paths and training and what's going to be the vital services that are provided. That integration of technology and everything is key for the, moving forward in the 21st century. So with that, I would just love to kind of have anybody that would be viewing this recording is a little teaser for phase 2. We'd like to follow up with Dr. Moore and with Jessica in terms of when we have phase 2 elements to show the complete transformation of the space. But this is something that's well on its road, and we wish you all the best with your new space. So thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And Tammy, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Hopefully we can do a follow-up after phase 2 construction, and hopefully Dr. Moore and Jessica will host in the new IMC on the platform under the skylight.
Excellent.
That sounds like a date.
Well, we appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.